Welcome to video podcast number 44. This is going to be the brief, free portion for the general public. And then I'm going to hook up my Patreon subscribers. I know I told you I was going to hook you up yesterday, but I'm definitely going to hook you up today. My patreon.com subscriber exclusive portion is going to center around the Madonna horror complex, men's sexual hypocrisy, and the detriments of slut shaming. But I just want to take a few minutes to address a few things. Now, as you can see, for the second time in less than 2 weeks, I'm not wearing my hat, at least not yet. I got it nearby. You know, I thought I was through it, a lot of you MGTOW types. You know, I did a couple episodes criticizing certain factions of MGTOW. And I hadn't seen them in my comment section recently, but just in the last 48 hours, I received 2 emails and 1 Facebook message from guys who were self-proclaimed MGTOW types. But before I get to those MGTOW types and their comments and criticisms, first off, if you want to give me public feedback, always do so below in the comment section below. All my relevant and important links are in the description section below. If you want to give me private feedback, you can write me at coaching@mode1.net, coaching@modeone.net. And you can write me through one of my 2 Facebook pages. I have a public Facebook page, Alan Roger Currie, and I got a personal Facebook page, also Alan Roger Currie. What else? As always, much love and respect and appreciation to my patreon.com subscribers. I think I got a couple new ones in the month of September so far. So, I always got love for you guys. And again, I'm going to be giving you the Patreon subscriber exclusive today is going to be for my $10 subscribers and up. $10 subscribers and up. And then I'll do one next week for my $5 subscribers and up. Oh, before I go on, I want to give a couple shout outs to a couple other podcasters. One, O'Shea Duke Jackson. I mention him quite a bit because he's the editor-in-chief of the Negro Manosphere, which I write articles for every Monday. I was part of one of his, what he calls his Brother Peel group podcasts. And I have to give his young brother a lot of props. I love his Brother Peel podcast because he covers such a diverse amount of different issues and topics and subject matter. Like last night we answered the question, the panelists answered the question, is God real? You know, there's many human beings who believe in the existence of God. Then there's some men and women who are atheists, some men and women who are agnostic. And we had probably a mix of responses in this Brother Peel podcast. But, you know, even for those panelists who I may have disagreed with on this subject, it was overall a great group podcast. So much kudos and props to O'Shea Duke Jackson. And O'Shea Duke Jackson, he has a great mix of intelligence. He has very, very intelligent questions during his podcast. And he also has a sharp quick wit about him. Great sense of humor and a sharp, quick wit. And I love that about him. It's almost like, I always tell him, it's like if you were to take the late, great comedian Robin Harris, throw in a dash of Richard Pryor, and the interviewing skills of Charlie Rose from PBS, and blended together, the end result would be O'Shea Duke Jackson. Another podcast and co-podcaster I give props to. And now I'm going to take a little credit. I think I've helped them explode in popularity. I know. That's my ego talking. But I'm going to tell these guys to give me 5% of the credit for them exploding in their popularity. But it's Mac City Limits podcast. Big Mike, he interviewed me a few weeks ago. And his semi-regular co-podcaster, Tony Maceo. Man, them brothers had a killer podcast in the last few days. Killer podcast. Gotta boy, it's just in reference to my whole issue, as you know, with my back and forth with this other YouTube host, affectionately known as the old man. Man, they just, man, they murdered this podcast. It ought to be nominated for a fucking YouTube Emmy. That's how thorough that shit was. So much props to Big Mike and brother Tony Maceo. Now, back to me. Again, I don't want this to be too long. I want to start off with some good news. The guy sent me a testimonial. I get a lot of these on a weekly basis. And some people have asked me, even criticized me. They say, Alan, you know, you do a lot of boasting about your past sexual conquest and past sexual exploits. That's not just me engaging in some egotistical boasting. One of the reasons why I talk about some of my past seductions of women, number one, I'm a dating coach and a verbal seduction coach. So it's like, duh. Why wouldn't I talk about it? That's number one. Duh. Number two, one thing I get a lot of gratification from is from a man writing me, a client, either a client of mine who was a Skype and consultation client of mine, a one-on-one face-to-face coaching session client of mine, email consultation client of mine, and I see there I go getting distracted with my notifications on my computer. Or just somebody who read one or more of my ebooks, one or more of my paperbacks, or listened to one or more of my audiobooks. I love it when guys write me and say, Alan, before I was exposed to your materials, I had a severe lack of confidence. I had a boatload of egotistical insecurities. I had a lot of invalid beliefs, attitudes, and fears. And there's just a lot of things I didn't think I was capable of doing as it relates to having success with women. But because of the knowledge, wisdom, insight, and expert advice you shared with me, I'm a changed man. I've transformed. And now I know things that I initially thought were not possible, I know now is possible. I'm going to read. It's kind of lengthy, so I might skip over one or two sentences, but this is from a guy. I'm not going to say his name. Based on his picture, he looks Middle Eastern, I think. And but I believe he lives here in the States. And he says, Dear Alan, I want to thank you for so much. Dear Alan, I want to thank you so much for saving my life. Let me repeat that. He said, "Dear Alan, I want to thank you so much for saving my life and making me realize that we really can seduce women." More specifically, that it's possible to seduce women that you've just met, that you've only known maybe an hour or two, such as like outside of a nightclub or other public venues. I got involved with the PUA industry in 2004 and started approaching women in 2008, and it all went dangerously downhill once I started using the methods of conventional pickup artists. I became suicidal at one point. And almost jumped from a shopping mall balcony. And then once again, I almost jumped off a bridge. Marinate on that. Most of these conventional PUAs should be banned from teaching men all the wrong things. What needs to be done by all men is to listen to you, Alan Roger Currie. Listen to you, Alan Roger Currie, and spread the word to every man in every country about you. I am in a much better mentally and emotionally better place, and grateful that I was introduced to your books by someone a few years ago. I consider you to be the greatest teacher of verbal seduction. Let me pause on that. I consider you to be the greatest teacher on verbal seduction ever. Keyword, ever. And I wish I could work in sales for you. I might open up that opportunity for him. He said, I wish I could work in sales for you. I had an amazing sexual encounter with a woman earlier this year using all of the knowledge, wisdom, and advice I gained from your books, all of your principles and philosophies, and you would have been proud. I wish I had video footage to show you. I had this cute young woman around 21 years old perform oral sex on me within less than an hour. Within less than an hour after making her acquaintance at a public venue, because I had her completely hypnotized. You've heard me mention that I know the fine art of what's known as conversational hypnosis in addition to verbal seduction. If you reference verbal seduction story number 1 in my book, Who Said Again, I tell you that one of my close friends who was on that triple date with me, he actually asked me, had I studied hypnotism? And the truth of the matter is, I never formally studied hypnotism, but I do know the art of conversational hypnosis. But this gentleman, he said the woman felt like she was hypnotized. I recommend all of your ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks to every romantically and sexually frustrated man that I personally cross paths with. I will contact you more professionally one day, as I really would love to work for you in some capacity to help you grow your business. I am so passionate about your work. I reckon I could easily get people to purchase more of your Skype and telephone consultations and one-on-one face-to-face coaching sessions and attend any and every public speaking engagement or workshop or seminar you ever sponsor. Alan Roger Currie, you are amazing. Thank you so much. That's right. You know, I will open, this relate to my last video podcast when I talked about men being emotional. I'll openly confess, man, sometimes I read certain testimonials, man, that leave me, if only a little bit, sometimes choked up. This was a powerful testimonial. I appreciate it greatly. I appreciate all the men who share their testimonials with me. All of them. If you listen to that video I uploaded where my rival, you can call him, the old man, he even said Alan Roger Currie is doing the Lord's work. That was his words, not mine. He said Alan Roger Currie is doing the Lord's work. I've had quite a few men. The first guy who told me that was a guy who used to be close friends with the late, great Patrice O'Neal, a guy named Dante Nero. He told me that one time when I was a guest on his show. He said, Alan, you know you're doing the Lord's work. Based on the feedback from this testimony, it makes me feel I am. So yes, to respond to the question that O'Shea Duke Jackson posed to the panel yesterday, is God real? Yeah, I believe he is. I know a lot of people don't. But I believe he's had a profound effect on my life. He knew that being a dating coach was my calling. Just like some ministers say it's their calling. Some actors say it was their calling. Some athletes say it was their calling. People in different careers say it was their calling. It was my calling to be a dating coach. Now to switch from the positive to the negative. I heard, not from too many, it was only three. It was three guys, self-proclaimed MGTOW types, that criticized one or more of my last 5 video podcasts. One guy wrote me and said, this is in reference to my video I said that's entitled, I'm a dating coach and not a matchmaker or a miracle worker. This MGTOW follower said, Alan, what's the point of you being a dating coach if a man is a 2, 3, or 4 on that scale from 1 to 10 and you can't guarantee him that he'll be able to hook up with a 7, 8, 9, or 10? What's the point of you being a dating coach? Oh shit. If you're going to apply that type of thinking, what's the point of being a college professor if you can't guarantee your students that they're going to get a high 5-figure, 6-figure job? What's the point of the armed services recruiting soldiers if they can't guarantee them that they'll be able to prevent death? What's the point of a health and fitness trainer or nutritionist having clients pay them if they can't guarantee them that they're going to have a super duper great figure as a female or a great physique as a man? What's the point of a man or woman becoming a physician if they can't guarantee their patients that they won't suffer from various ailments? What's the point of anyone becoming an attorney if they can't guarantee their clients that they'll stay out of jail or prison? What's the point of being an airplane pilot if you can't guarantee your passengers that the plane won't crash? What's the point? What's the point of getting your wife pregnant if you can't guarantee her that she won't have a miscarriage? What's the point? I don't make ironclad guarantees. I already mentioned that in that video. I'm going to say it again. One of the reasons why you have a lot of guys who are bitter and resentful towards these pickup artists and some of these other dating coaches is because they provide them with unrealistic, ironclad guarantees. As I mentioned, I don't feed into men's delusions. I provide them with the knowledge that I believe they need, the wisdom, the insight. I help them weed out a lot of invalid beliefs, thoughts, attitudes, fears, insecurities. I give them the tools to be successful with women. The tools. Outside noise. But I'm not going to give any man some type of unrealistic, ironclad guarantee. Again, the people you confusing me and conflating me with are matchmakers. Matchmakers are the ones who are guaranteed, who come close to guaranteeing their clients that they're going to hook them up with a certain quality or caliber of companion. It's not my job. It's not my job. So, that's my response to one of these MGTOW types. Another one of the MGTOW types, I don't know if his comment, I forget which video his comment was specifically in regards to, but he said that, Alan, I hope you know that in 2 to 3 years, your career as a dating coach is going to be over. I hope you know that. The MGTOW movement is going to continue to grow, and you can't stop us. I don't care how many YouTube videos you do, you can't stop us. The MGTOW movement is going to grow exponentially. And once we do, there will be no use for dating coaches like yourself. As far as the accusation, you can't stop us. Whoever said I was trying to stop you? Please reference a quote of mine where I asserted that I'm trying to stop or stall the MGTOW movement. I said in my previous video about the MGTOW movement, if there are heterosexual men out there that want to completely avoid social interactions with women, be my guest. I'll shake your hand, pat you in the back, and say good luck. If I was a multi-billionaire, I would create an island called MGTOW Island. And I would fly each of you to MGTOW Island so you can interface with each other and enjoy camaraderie and fellowship with your fellow MGTOW followers. That's what I would do. That's the good guy and generous guy that I am. If I had the money, I would create MGTOW Island so you can be around your own kind. But it would serve me well because I would get you away from regular civilization, so you don't corrupt the thoughts of those men who don't want any part of that shit. My own closest variation to MGTOW is no fun clubbing. I wish all men who are interested in finding a romantic or sexual companion would stop pretending with women that they're content with a purely platonic friendship when they know they're not. They need to be mode one and be upfront, specific, and straightforward about the fact that they want romantic and sexual companionship. So you could say platonically, I want men to go MGTOW. But for those of you men who want to avoid women interacting with women, period, do it. If you want to avoid proposing marriage to women for the rest of your life, do it. If you want to avoid impregnating women for the rest of your life, do it. Alan Roger Currie is not trying to stop you. Do it. Do what you got to do. But you're not going to kill my career. I can guarantee you that. I don't care how popular MGTOW becomes in the future. I don't care how many more members you influence and persuade to join your movement. The only thing that would get me out of business is if 90+% of the women in society were all of a sudden to become lesbians. But as long as there's heterosexual women and bisexual women who love to experience orgasmic pleasure with a heterosexual man, I will always be in business. Believe that shit. The demand for my services will always be there. My income as an author, public speaker, and dating coach has grown every year. With the exception of 2014, I had a minor regression. But every other year, my income has gone up and up and up and up. And in the 1% chance that I was to lose as a matter of fact, in the last 12 months, I've had more one-on-one face-to-face coaching sessions than any 12-month period since I've been a dating coach. In the last 12 months, I've had more one-on-one face-to-face coaching sessions. That's my most expensive coaching. I've had more of those in the last 12 months than any 12-month period since I became a dating coach in 2007. And I would argue that MGTOW has increased their membership over the last 10 years. So if MGTOW has grown in in popularity and membership, forgot to do this. Lemon squeeze, baby. Lemon squeezed. Excuse me. So yeah, MGTOW has grown over the last 10 years. I'm sure they got a higher membership now, and higher number of followers and subscribers now than they did 10 years ago. How come it hasn't negatively affected my career? How come my career has grown? How come my client base has grown in the last 10 years? Answer that question for me. I invite you to. And finally, one other MGTOW guy said he listened to my group hangout with O'Shea Duke Jackson, the Angry Man, Steve the Dean Williams, and the YouTube host I refer to as the O Man. And like some others, he said, Alan, it sounded like you were getting emotional. You seem like a guy who's easily triggered. You allowed the O Man to get you emotional. Why? Because you concentrate more on the messenger than the message that's being delivered. Let me repeat that. He said, Alan, you allowed yourself to be easily triggered and to become emotional by some of the commentary expressed by the old man, because your problem is you concentrate more on the messenger than the message that's being delivered. And you know what my response is? You goddamn right I do. You goddamn right I do. See, some people have posed this argument to me before when it comes to debates, discussions and debates, particularly those related to male-female relations, dating and relationships. The fuck is all that noise? See, here's the thing, man. Unlike some subject matter, some issues in life, there's some things you can completely ignore the messenger and just pay attention to the message. There's some issues, topics, subject matter where you can easily do that. But there's other issues, subject matter, and topics that you can't. You have to pay attention to the messenger. Let's take racism. You have to pay attention to the messenger if you're doing a discussion and debate about racism, because most Caucasian folks in the United States haven't had the same experiences as black people in the United States. So I'm not going to look at what a white person says, their feedback, in the same way I would the feedback from a black person. I'm just not. If you're talking about issues to do with pregnancy or abortion, I'm not going to treat the feedback from a man the same way I would the feedback from a woman, because a man has never experienced an abortion. So not only am I going to pay attention to his message, I'm going to pay attention to the messenger, because he can't relate. A man's never had an abortion. All he can do is speak about abortion from the perspective of a man. This is why I did my video entitled Subjective Truth versus Objective Truth. That's what I was basically saying in that video. On many issues, you have to pay attention to both the message and the person who's delivering the message. Because if they haven't experienced the same things as you have, then their message loses validity. And going back to issues related to male-female interactions and dating and relationships, I'm going to just put it bluntly. If you got a guy doing an audio podcast and he's like 350 pounds with 5 rotten teeth in his mouth, and his message is, all women ain't shit, all women are bitches, his message has no credibility with me. Why? Because he's 350 pounds with 5 rotten teeth in his mouth. Now, if a guy who looks like Boris Kojo or Brad Pitt was to get on a podcast and say, all women ain't shit, all women are bitches, my curiosity is going to be piqued. I'm going to be wondering what is making an actor who's as handsome as Boris Kojo and Brad Pitt say such a thing. But if some guy, again, is 450 pounds with 5 rotten teeth in his mouth, all he's doing is saying that women ain't shit, his words have no credibility with me. Of course he's going to feel that way. Because who is he fucking? Who is he attracting? So you goddamn right I pay attention to the messenger. You goddamn right I pay attention to the messenger. I'm not going to listen to harsh criticisms about women from a guy who hasn't had the same romantic and sexual success with women that I have. His message is falling on deaf ears. You understand that? I've told you about my experiences, my subjective truth. I've had my share of rejection from women I've had my share of disappointments and frustrations with women, so it's not like I totally can't relate to guys who've been rejected by a woman or had disappointing or frustrating experiences with a woman. I can't relate because I've experienced those things. But generally speaking, I've had way more positive experiences with women than I've had negative. I've had women in my life who've treated me like a king. I've had women who have been my sugar mama before. Speaking on that, if I was to ever go out of business as a dating coach, as one of my commenters said in the comment section, Alan, you don't ever have to worry about being homeless because I'm sure you'll always have some woman that'd be willing to take care of you financially. And you know what? At the risk of sounding egotistical, that's the goddamn truth. Most of the women I've had casual sex with, I've had my way with them. They've treated me with respect. They loved me fucking them. So I don't have the same frustrations as some of these other messengers. So again, I'm going to always pay attention not only to the message that's being delivered, but I'm going to pay attention to the messenger. Because for lack of a better word, if the guy who's delivering the message is basically a loser, a guy who I don't know, been unemployed for the last 5 years, is 100 pounds overweight, has personal hygiene problems, never takes care of his physique, never works out, his verbal communication skills with women are poor, he's unintelligent, he's just hateful, bitter, and resentful, why the fuck am I going to listen to his message? His message is bullshit. Because it comes only from his perspective. Subjective truth. This YouTube animal is totally different than Blog Talk Radio. I had critics here and there when I was in my 9 years on Blog Talk Radio. But I noticed this YouTube animal attracts a lot of haters and critics. But I say, come with it. Come with it. I've been knocked down for a few seconds in my life, for a few minutes, for a few hours, for a few days. But the thing about a resilient brother like Alan Roger Currie, I'll always get back up. So you can come with your harshest criticisms, all the hater rage you want to throw at me. But you are listening to a brother who's very resilient. I watched both of my parents die in my face. I saw blood spurting out of my father's mouth right before he died. My mother died in my arms. She took her last breath in my arms. I was homeless for 36 hours when I lived in Los Angeles as a struggling screenwriter. Could name times I was weeks and months unemployed, in between jobs, struggling. I've had a wide assortment of health ailments such as pneumonia. I've had a gun pointed in my face. I've had people doubt me, underestimate me, only for me to prove them wrong later on. As my hometown boy Michael Jackson, he got a record I love called Unbreakable. You can try to fade me. You can try to break my spirit, but you won't. You won't. Because I'm resilient. And I'm unbreakable. You knock me down, I'll always get back up. So I say, come with it. Come with your harshest criticisms. And I will knock them all down one by one. This ain't no punk you listening to right now. This is a real man you listening to. My brother, he said to me in a one-on-one talk, he got me emotional because he said, bro, I know from being your brother, you've experienced a lot of shit that the general public will never know about. You've experienced a lot of episodes of adversity that most people would never know about. But each time you came back stronger. And he said, I can't help but as your older brother to admire your resilience. You can't break this brother's spirit. You can try, but you cannot. Because Alan Roger Currie, my friends, is fucking unbreakable. Marinate on that shit. Hashtag unbreakable. Marinate on that, my haters and critics. Patreon subscribers, your video is coming up next. Stay tuned. Mo One, baby.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, king. Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.